I know the reasons why people lie about sexual assault and about crimes. Hiring a lawyer is the hardest thing to do because what if you're wrong? They have to be convinced with very little evidence. They have to rush to judgment to hire a lawyer without having all the facts.
Those clients don't see everything that we're doing behind the scenes, but it's interesting because they know.
Like, I want clients to feel like they're sitting there in the office while we're working on their case. Because I know if I were stressing about going to prison the rest of my life, and I could just live feed my lawyer and I'd look over his shoulder and be like, oh, that motherfucker's working on my case. I would feel so much relief. Juries get it right most of the time. And if there's not enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, no amount of advocacy or charisma can make a square circle. One thing I cannot tolerate is people that hide mistakes. Like, they would get fired immediately, right? That's an unforgivable sin around here. Making mistakes is a forgivable sin because we don't know what we don't know, and we have processes in place for quality control and ways to take care of that and find them before they happen, and then we can just write off time to clients when we go and, you run down a rabbit trail, oh, I didn't need to do that, okay, we write that off, we learned something, right? But so to be good at sales, you gotta be trustworthy. You gotta know your product. And you have to have a good product, right? You can't sell a bad product. And if you were trying to sell a bad product, what does that mean for the first thing?
You're not trustworthy.
You're not trustworthy. Or you don't know your product. You don't know that it's bad. Or you don't know the needs of the person you're selling something to.
But it can't be, you can't have all three. You can't have a bad product and be trustworthy and know your product.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's the fourth, the magic, the secret sauce, and that's passion. Now, it's pretty easy to get passionate about something that you believe in that's going to solve a problem someone has, right? So that kind of flows naturally from the first three. And you see people in the practice of law without passion, and it's because they know their case is a loser. And you'll never see me trying a case that I don't have passion for because I'm trustworthy and I know the facts, I know the law, and I know the best possible story to sell. And if I tell a client, hey, look, here's what we were able to uncover in your case, but we don't think you're gonna likely have success at trial. You try this case 10 times, 10 random juries, one jury out of 10 is gonna look at you funny and you're gonna lose, you're gonna have a bad day. One jury trial out of 10, your opposition's gonna have the same thing. So really you're just talking about trying to predict what 8 juries out of 10 will do. Well, if you get this particular makeup and things go this way and this way, which is possible in your case, it's not likely, but you have to say at least one time out of 8, we could lose that motion, which would mean that evidence doesn't get in or whatever. And you put it through your mind and all the cases you've seen over the years and all the data points, and somehow we're able to pop out a pretty good predictor of success, which is why every time I say, there's a 9 times out of 10 we're gonna win this trial, we always win.
Do you ever go higher than 9 out of 10, or is it truly like 10% of the time, any case, a jury could go the wrong way just because?
We're talking that there's only 8 juries out of 10 that we're predicting, because we know there's always going to be an outlier of you had a bad day, bad stuff happens for you, and then you can never say that 90% of the time the other side, if they have a great case, is going to win, because same thing, they have a bad day, the jury looks at them cross-eyed, just bad luck, right? So there's 8 times out of 10, you get, let's say that this sort of juror processes information in a way that they will not see the truth, and you get a majority of them on your jury. That's nerve-wracking. Now you're going to have to work within their mental framework or train them to think differently, and you have to identify those people and that strategy in advance so you can start weaning them out in jury selection. And if you can't get rid of them because you only get in a misdemeanor 3 peremptory challenges and you got 6 people up there, and now you're like, all right, well, 3 of these people are bad, 3 people are on deck, or even worse, I'm stuck with these 3, and you have to adjust your strategy accordingly. And it's a communication plan. And you may have to have 2 different ways to communicate to both types of jurors. Yeah.
And so, I'm just thinking, because, so there aren't really any cases, if you think so, to use a metaphor, like the cases are really like, when me and you spar, where it's like, you have, as much as I'm, dramatically above your level, there's still that 10% chance that you land a lucky shot, that I have a really bad day and I lose. There aren't any cases like when it's me against Joshua, where like even if Joshua hits me in the arm and I can't use my arm, I can use one arm to, you know what I mean?
But look,
like there's no way that Joshua is ever going to beat me in a fight.
That's not true, because I spar Joshua all the time, and and the stance is like this because his left jab and he's got a pretty hard right hook.
He does.
You can see it coming from a mile away because he still wants to deliver the power. Maybe that's, come to think of it, that might be a good strategy for a kid because how much force can he do like that?
No, yeah.
In order for him to actually do damage to us, he's got to have this telegraphed hook. So that's why his best move is to go for your testicles, and then when you lean down, if he ever catches you and you go all for that split second, he is going to hit you really hard. Because I know this because he did this to me once. He caught me in the testicles. I was like, oh, and then next thing you know, I'm pulling into this. He hits me really hard in the cheek, and I was like, dang, man, if I was moving into that, maybe he would have got lucky and knocked me out. I don't know. Is that possible?
I mean,
can he do enough force?
I think it's very possible that he could knock you out. But, no, I'm just kidding. With me though, with both of us actually, I feel like I could take a full strength testicle shot and a full strength shot to the face and not be knocked out.
I think it's probably
true.
So I think you're right that that's 100% chance that.
Or 99.9. I mean, there's a chance that I drop dead. You know what I mean?
In the fight, even heart attack.
Yes, and so I guess I'm thinking because I would just
it's never
that there are cases like that. Where it's like
it's never a zero probability of success or loss.
And it sounds like there's not even ever a 5% probability of loss. I mean, it sounds like you're saying that almost every single case there's that 10% of a jury just have the wackest jury out.
What I tell clients, I was like, look, this is hocus pocus. You can't hold me to this. I'm just telling you that in my mind, if we try, this is worthless information. Just because I've never mispredicted a jury outcome as an adult lawyer, I mispredicted all the time when I was a law student trying what I later found out to be dog shit cases that had no chance of winning. And I thought I was such a good lawyer. And then a very wise older district attorney came up to me and was like, Mike, why are you trying all these cases? Like, just keep losing them. He's like, no. I'm not asking you why you're losing these cases. Why are you trying them? They're dog shit cases. They can't be won. He's like, the reason they're giving you these cases is these are trial lawyers, man. Yeah. They want to try all the cases, but they're giving you these cases because you'll try them. They don't have to go say, they don't have to go tell the cop and the victim that their case sucks, I need to dismiss it. So don't do that anymore. And I internalized that, but still I didn't understand. I still had this misunderstanding of reality that juries get it right most of the time. And if there's not enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, no amount of advocacy or charisma can make a square circle.
And that's the thing is and I would say, if you did tell clients, oh yeah, I can guarantee this is going to be right, that would mean that you weren't trustworthy. That would mean that they should turn around and run.
I've seen cases where I'm like, and I've said it to the office. What did I say the other day? If I go to trial next week and hear a one-word guilty verdict, shoot me. I'm not going to be a trial lawyer anymore.
You basically said, for one of the cases I remember we first got it in, that was the case that we took on really short notice. And you basically said, if I lose this, then, I'm the worst trial lawyer ever. Here's all the facts.
And do I tell a client that? Of course
heck
not.
No,
because it wouldn't be fair to them, right? Because what they always ask you is, you get them this offer, and they say, well, what would you do? I was like, well, I know what I would do. This is how I would think about it, but I'm not going to tell you what I would do because that's not fair to me and it's not fair to you because I'm very risk adverse. I may seem like a risk-taking trial lawyer that pushes the envelope to get justice for the innocent and for, destroying liars for a living. I may seem like reckless or something, but I'm not. I'm very, very prudent on each decision. I weigh them out in my head. But I'm really risk adverse. I don't like taking risks. So I don't know your level of risk. It's not fair to you to hear me say my opinion based upon me. I don't want to go to prison. I'm not going to take that risk. I'll probably be a 3-time felon to take the deal. And then the client would maybe be swayed because they trust me so much. Look at what clients say about us in these cases. That they would do whatever we asked. If we told them to do something, they trust us so much.
And you earn that trust. They don't have that from the get-go, although by the time they hire us, they usually...
There's a lot of marketing collateral online, a lot of videos about us, a lot of war stories. There's a couple 48 Hours episodes. There's a book that I wrote. And so they can get a pretty good idea of how I think and how I do things. So by the time they come to us, I think they know what they're getting. Mm-hmm. But still, hiring a lawyer is the hardest thing to do because what if you're wrong? What if you pick this lawyer and it's all smoke and mirrors? So you have to they take a leap right here. They have to be convinced with very little evidence. They have to rush to judgment to hire a lawyer without having all the facts, because they just don't know enough about the lawyer. They've never seen you in action. Then they see you in action, and then they're confirming their belief that they made the good decision. And then boom, you start delivering results, and things start, like I say, this is gonna happen if we do this, and then it happens, you increase trust. And big cases that have long timelines, obviously it's easier to develop that relationship because they become like family. You know them for a year.
I was just thinking about our two cases where both folks are immigrants from one particular continent. With those huge cases that we have, I think it's interesting because I see all the work that we do behind the scenes. And I mean, how, Frank and Dana are, putting their, blood, sweat, and tears into the case. And it's interesting to me because I know, like, intellectually that those clients don't see everything that we're doing behind the scenes, but it's interesting because they know. Whenever I've seen them talking with us or whenever I've interacted with them, the one client for our mock trial in particular, he knew that we were, Well, he had complete faith in us, and it was actually...
But look, that's by design. So we've set up the law firm so we have these checklists that we talk about, these things that we do and these things we rule out. But we also have a really good feedback loop for communicating with clients. So it's designed, like I want clients to feel like they're sitting there in the office while we're working on their case. Because I know if I were stressing about going to prison the rest of my life and I could just live feed my lawyer and I'd look over his shoulder and be like, oh, that motherfucker's working on my case. Oh, look at that. Oh, look, they're talking about my case and they're off. Oh my good, I would feel so much relief. Mm-hmm. And if I looked over his shoulder and he's, playing Candy Crush on his phone, I'd be real disappointed. I think the hardest thing about being a client is you got to catch the lawyer's attention. And the way to catch the lawyer's attention and make them work on your case is the supply and demand curve. Mm-hmm. So, and then if you hire a lawyer and they just sit on it, they don't work it, which happens a lot. You hear about these flat fee cases and like what's been done. They're trying to pressure someone to take a deal. That's a terrible injustice. So clients know we're not those people by design, not because they trust us, but because every time something happens, we bill for it in excruciating detail. So they read over the bill and they tell us, oh, thank you so much for my bill. I know everything you're doing. And we break up the time into really tight units. So it's not, I researched a case, it's like, no, I did this, then I did that, then I looked this up. And then I shared with the client, hey, just so you know, I found these couple of cases I'm looking at in real time. We give them feedback. It's not because we want them to feel good just because, that's a goal in and of itself, because, we want them to feel better because we love them and our clients, but also because it makes them an active participant in their own case because they are a focus group of one with a very unique set of data points in their head because they were there. They were there when it happened or didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So if I can feed them a little bit of information about the law and I can tell them what it means, and they can go think about it, and lo and behold, they come up with a bunch of ideas because what are they doing all the time? They're thinking about their case. So you've got to arm your client with the tools they need so they can make their worrying worthwhile. Because what do we tell clients? Don't let a good suffering go to waste. You're sitting here dwelling about the facts of your case? Awesome. Go read those police reports and break it down to its constituent parts and then compare it to the other one. They do that. And now they know what's admissible and what's not admissible because we've shared some information, we've educated them. And you've seen as we prep clients for trial, we're going through and telling them how we do voir dire and what we're instructing the jurors on and how we want to communicate the story and the hero's journey of the case. And then they're able to, when they think of something, like a client that messaged us the other day, I was just thinking about this point. Why was he thinking about that point? Because we told him things that inspired him to recall that piece of information. Mm-hmm. Because he is a very valuable member of the team.
I think that's huge too. Sort of there's something to be said for the almost anti-elitism. I know that I've had clients say to me a couple times like, oh, I don't want to interject, I don't want to be annoying, but I was thinking this and this and this, and oftentimes they come up with really intelligent ideas, and they really can contribute, even if they don't have a legal education, especially when they don't have a legal education sometimes. Even
their ridiculous bad ideas that are completely annoying and sound like vengeful people that are trying to wish a legal system in a place that doesn't exist, that could be therapeutic for them, right? But I've had so many clients say, what about this? What about that? And I think to myself, oh my God, I didn't. And then I come up with the correct idea. And if you ever watch Scott Adams, the Dilbert author, and we talked about him before, he's got a sort of a mental exercise when analyzing a problem. He creates and throws out a bad idea. And the bad idea, and he describes it and says, this is a bad idea. So don't go and critique my idea and say it's a bad idea, because I know it's a bad idea, because I told you it was a bad idea, and I don't have a good idea, or else I would do the good idea and we wouldn't be having this freaking conversation to begin with, because I'd have the answer. I don't have the answer, so I'm going to give this extremely weird, outside the box idea that has no chance of working, and then we're going to use that to inspire us to have good ideas. Clients do that by design, because they're so desperate that whatever they feel, they say, and they won't hold it back, because we're the only ones listening that can do something about their problem. So when clients have a bad idea, or any idea, they're often very apologetic about it. And if they are being apologetic about it, it's because we haven't been very good attorneys and explained to them, please keep peppering us with questions and ideas, right? And that's what we want them to do. I want them to blow us up on the instant messages. You know, like we pay people that bill less than us to go through and pull the wheat from the chaff. Mm-hmm. And so they know we're not going to be wasting attorney time and billing them for every, like I'll read it, you know, because that's what I do. I don't bill them for it.
No.
And I like it because it's like I'm checking in on, it's like we've built an organic system that is an idea generating machine that can help win cases by coming up with novel legal theories, novel facts, and the like. So when I look at the feedback machine that we're creating for the clients, we give them information because it makes them appreciate our work and they deserve it. It's their work product, right? They should be not kept in the dark about their case because it's what they're due, but also because the more information they have, the more likely they'll be inspired to come up with another piece of evidence, another lead. Oh, what about this? Oh, great idea. We can't do that, but what about we go interview that other person? Because maybe that could show that motive or that piece of information that we need for the case. So the cool thing is, it's working when we're not even thinking about the case. Our team, our client, the people that bill less per hour, they know about the case. And how many times do they come up to you with a good idea? It's like, now I got this awesome tactic at trial that I never would have come up with if I were a sole practitioner, that led to this wonderful epiphany, that led to this great piece of evidence that's just going to kill it in the cross-examination. And it happened while I was like, playing with my kid.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at our office, the fact that we have people who, obviously we share a lot of the important values, but we have a bunch of different life experience, way of seeing things. And
background education.
Education. And you're totally right. I mean, I can think of an instance in which pretty much everybody in the office has come up with something that's been a huge break on a case, or they've seen something or spotted something or come up with a idea. When you have, our youngest employee is 18, and the oldest person who works at this office is 87 now?
Just my joints.
Oh, just your joints. Yeah. Sorry. So that was a cheap joke, but the other stuff is actually true. The fact that we have people from different backgrounds, education, etc.
Yeah. Well, I would say that clients, they most of the time aren't coming from a background or socioeconomic position that they are buying very expensive products or services, maybe other than life-saving surgery. So typically the people that invest in our legal services to try to get a win, to try to right their wrong, are buying the biggest thing they've ever purchased before. I would say bigger than a house, because you buy a house, I bought a $500,000 house. Well, did you? You only spent like X dollars on the down payment, and you're going to spend 5X that if you want to do this, 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 and this, 3X that if you want to do this and this. So what we do is in this idea machine, we come up with all these different strategies, some with diminishing returns, some that, you do this, may increase your odds by 1 or 2%, and it's really expensive to do it. Do you want to do it? Yes. Well, why do you want to do it? Well, because I'd rather increase the odds by 1% and win the case really, really awesomely that I would have won anyway, than go to prison the rest of my life and wonder forever if I would have done this, if it would have made a difference.
Yeah, I agree, and I can even think. I mean, one of our clients in particular has, but has quite a lot of nice stuff. I mean, we have other clients who have good amounts of money too. Even with our clients who are making millions or billion-dollar deals, the lawyer they hire is still probably the most important decision they make.
Oh, clearly. But as far as the client process, when you're hiring a lawyer, you're expected to buy something very expensive with very little information on quick notice. And I think that does dovetail into what you're saying about people of means. They know other people, and you may have a pre-existing relationship with them, so there's already trust. Or they make, and that's why the best referrals are from like lifetime attorney-client relationships, because they've been entrusted to do these very important things for someone of a great net worth. And then it's like, well, okay, I can't help you with this case, but I refer you to this lawyer. And those referrals are some of the best, obviously, because people of means can afford to do more fun stuff, right? Like, we represent people kind of on a sliding scale around here, right? Yeah. We end up forgiving a lot of debt for trial at times, doing like really good flat fees. Sort of the more righteous the case, the less money we'll take if the client can't afford it, right?
And depending on what time we take it and everything, if we're absolutely booked.
Oh, sure, because you can forego the pain for a later time. Like, it depends on where in the case it is. Like, okay, we can work on your case on the side for less than what we could bill another case, because you know what, we can fit it in and it sounds like a lot of fun. So you're able to take more risk when you're not, crushing it for trial, right? But the other side of things is clients that are coming in just on the internet alone. Like, how do you make a decision? Have you looked at like attorney websites? They look like the same thing with different pictures. Like, it could be stock photos. Justice, we're gonna work hard, we're gonna fight for your rights. I went to law school, I have kids and a family. Here are my hobbies.
You.
Yeah, I mean, and they have to make a decision based upon that. Well, hopefully they'll be able to go do a consultation. Hopefully they'll be able to read reviews. Hopefully they have time to do that. But how many of our clients are in jail, unable to communicate with their family? They have a family member that's calling that has no money, and they're out in their spare time being a fundraiser, trying to tell their loved one's story to the people that have the money. I mean, they're financing a case based upon my husband, my wife, my son, my daughter is being falsely accused. We need to go all in as a family to protect him. Those clients put so much weight on a law firm, right? Because they have less information to make a decision because they're in jail, relying upon people on the outside to discern who the right attorney is, and they have to make the decision quickly because they just got arrested. They need this and that done. Evidence dissipates. People lawyer up and harder to interview people. There's a lot of things that happen in that golden hour at the beginning of a case. You come up with the best ideas at the beginning when you don't have confirmation bias yet. I mean, what's the best time to come up with a strategy in a case? It's when Michelle walks in here and she's like, all right, here's the facts, and this is their situation. So Michelle is like the client's best advocate because she's the one trying to pitch to me whether or not to give them my attention and talk to them and see about taking them on as a case. She'll come to me and tell me a story, and I'm like, refer it out. We get 400, 800 calls a month. I can't talk to all those people, and neither can she. So we've got a process that is very imperfect, that's designed to get the clients that can afford us and have good stories based upon the truth and an injustice happening, and then also the ones that can afford us can get to the top too, so we can ascertain whether or not to represent them on terms that work for them. Or we can also, what we do in all cases, we give them a menu of things to do, and they can rule out things that are outside of their budget, right? And that should be the client's decision. Like, I know that we don't have a duty to share, have clients make the strategic decisions. Like, clients get to do several things unequivocally. They can decide whether or not to fire you. They get to decide whether or not to take a deal. In a criminal case, whether or not to testify. And in a criminal case, whether or not to have a jury trial or a judge trial. And then we make the rest of the decisions. But our model is not like that. We give clients, here's what we want to do. What do you think? And boy, it keeps them informed. They get to decide whether or not to pull this lever or push this button and save money. Because we're fiduciaries of the retainers too, of the money that they put into the deal, the time that they bought from us. It's our duty to make it the most impact, right? We're fiduciaries of blood and treasure, like the family's life savings, the equity in a grandmother's house. And they're coming to us to give justice to their loved one. I mean, that's what we do for a living every single day. So hurt feelings about missing a deadline or about not thinking through an issue appropriately, like we got to nip that stuff in the bud as you're building a law firm, right? How many times do you see people out there repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again and practice the law? Well, they either have bad mentors or they're not working hard enough, or maybe they're not intelligent enough to know they're making a mistake. I haven't seen many unintelligent lawyers. I mean, there's kind of a cool litmus test about if you can pull off college, law school, the LSAT, the bar exam, and you're still practicing and haven't fails. You're reasonably good at meeting deadlines and organization. I mean, most lawyers have the capacity of being formidable. Like most dogs have the capacity to draw blood on you, right? You always got to be a little hesitant about a strange dog. That little yappy, tiny Chihuahua can draw blood, and any big animal could potentially kill you. So even the most incompetent lawyer on their best day can take you down if you're not prepared, right? So that's why you got to put so much effort in learning the case. And like Sun Tzu would say, you got to know the geography, right? Like you got to know the lay of the land, because if you go this way, a straight line, you're going to be taking your army through a marsh. Maybe you should have gone around the long way and saved the trouble. Or maybe if you go this way, you're going into a bottleneck where there could be an ambush, and so you have to know the lay of the land. That metaphor kind of extends to the facts of the case, the relationships that got you to where the case is. Like you got to know the background about why there's conflict in this person's life. Because as we talked about before, most clients, every client I've ever had is not actually innocent of everything. They've done something that ticks somebody off to the point they made up an accusation.
At the very least, yeah.
At the very least. Maybe it's always going to be unjust, disproportionate response to a wrong that's terribly evil, or maybe it was reactionary and they get stuck in it, like we've talked about before, and they're stuck to that story.
And to clarify, what you're saying is, even if one of our clients did something that was wrong, that was bad, the falsely accusing of something that the accuser does, that's wrong no matter what. And it's disproportionate no matter what. But as you said, sometimes, somebody will say something and then everybody, takes it seriously and then they're stuck in it.
It's funny that I just do it so cavalier. Like, of course it's wrong to falsely accuse someone, and you turn to the fourth wall and explain it like it needs to be explained. But you know what? It needs to be explained, because there are people out there that think the ends justify the means, and just because this person cheated on me, they should go to prison the rest of their lives. There are people like that. And people like us and people like most of the listeners of this, they're going to be like, people like that don't exist, because they've never experienced it, and they can't imagine why in the world somebody would subject themselves to this process just to get even about a minor slight.
And we project ourselves onto others, both in a good and a bad way. And so, that's one reason why good people can sometimes get, screwed over and deceived and taken advantage of, because they assume that other people wouldn't be dishonest or be trying to take advantage of others or things like that. There's also the negative thing where people will accuse you of things that they're guilty of. But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, our listeners and me and you, it probably wouldn't come naturally to us to think of people lying, falsely accusing people of things.
But the people that it comes most naturally to are the people that have suffered that themselves. So in a case of like a domestic violence victim, maybe the conventional wisdom would be, as a prosecutor, I want to have other victims of domestic violence on my jury, right? Because they will empathize with the domestic violence victim and not the perpetrator. Well, those same people couldn't they even imagine that somebody would take advantage of the system? Yes, they can, because we can show them the evidence that proves that person's a liar, and when they learn that,
fire and fury.
Oh my goodness, they are the best defense jurors, because they're going to hold that person to account, because they are making real victims less worthy of attention, because they are screwing up the equilibrium of a just society.
And it's disgusting. I mean, they're basically, a fake victim is basically using the actual suffering of real victims in order to get their way.
And,
they're taking advantage of real victims.
But what else do victims of domestic violence know? Almost universally. Who do they know, and what do they know about someone? They know that there are people in this world that will use force and power to get their way. That's what domestic violence is. It's about one of two things. It's about control or explosive anger. Explosive anger is about a lack of control.
Yeah.
So it's really all about control. So like, so someone's got a real short temper, and it's got somebody that if they were a man and saying that to you, you would knock the shit out of them, and they happen to be a small, petite woman, and the person has no self-control, well, they get domestic violence situations for lack of impulse control. Okay, a lot of times those people have lack of impulse control, mitigate for that by controlling others, so they often have that aspect too, in my experience. But regardless, victims of bad people that have been taken advantage of understand that there are bad people that take advantage of people.
Yeah.
Okay? All we have to do is convince them or hope or weed out the ones that don't think this way. Because there are victims, traumatized people that think all men are bad. Women never lie. Because I was doubted in my story, I'm not going to, they project onto other people.
And
so
it's also kind of a lack of imagination that you talk about, a lack of, understanding that just because somebody experienced something, that's not necessarily the way that it is universally.
Well, I think there's no point of imagining something that's not ever likely to happen. I don't fault these people, because if you think this is the way the world is, then why would you bother imagining something that you know is not true? It creates this loop. So the only way they learn about the other side is that they have a life experience with other people. So that's why in jury selection, has anybody ever been, your family been a victim of a false accusation? And now you start hearing, oh yeah, my nephew, he was going through this divorce, and he was accused of this, and then he got his kids taken away, and the judge didn't believe him. And then the next person tells a story. Now, what is that alienated, isolated victim of domestic violence who thinks that people never lie about these things? What have they just heard? For the first time in their lives, 5 firsthand accounts of people that have seen the other side of the coin. And so who's in the best position to influence them about the way the world works? Me? Hey, let me tell you, there's people out there that lie and take advantage of the system. Or the guy they've been hanging out with in the jury room talking about family and weather and sports.
There's nothing that quite breaks your, especially if you have a rigid view of the world, having somebody who you trust and like tell you, well, I actually, experienced this myself, where I've seen this happen myself, and oh, they're not lying. Like, I can't imagine this happening, but here's a person who I trust telling me that they've seen it. I mean, that can definitely, I think, expand people's horizons, and it kind of humbles you in a way to learn, I had no idea that was a thing.
Oh, you see it happen in jury selection a lot, and through a trial, like that epiphany that, oh, my worldview is, how often the people have to be around other people that are strangers to them talking about sexual assault?
Never.
That doesn't happen, but we do it in jury selection all the time. It's our job, and it's an experience for the jurors. It's an experience that it's a core memory from them, particularly for them, especially if they are a victim of sexual assault historically themselves. Now they're going to go hear about sexual assault for weeks at a trial or hours in jury selection. That's a process for them. And
it can be a way, there are some aspects of jury selection that I feel should be in a good college class that are like this too, where you can kind of crush ignorance. If you're in a jury selection, as you're saying, if you're somebody who has been a victim, for an example, of domestic violence or sexual assault, and you think, in your experience, nobody would ever lie about such a thing.
Why would they?
Yeah, why would? To normal people, to decent people, we can't imagine somebody lying about such a thing. Why would you put yourself through that? Exactly. And so I think that having one of those experiences where your world is opened up and you hear something that's so different from what you were thinking, that so contradicts and shakes up the image of the world that you have in your head, I think that can be super valuable.
Well, I think even just talking about the reasons someone would lie about it, they may have never thought of it before. So let me tell you, I know the reasons why people lie about sexual assault and about crimes. It's because A, they got backed into a corner and blurted something out and they got stuck to a story, or B, they have something to gain. And that something to gain may not be something you think as a third party observer is worth gaining because you don't understand the mindset of a sociopath, a borderline personality, a narcissist, or a psychopath. Never occurred to you that there's people that would harm others for slight gain. And that slight gain might be watching them suffer, watching them squirm. And they are happy about that because they want revenge, and they are unjust, and revenge is unjust. I look at this morning, Putin said some things about what he's going to do in response to the Ukraine sort of Pearl Harbor attack with the drones. And I haven't read what he said yet. And so I'm actually excited to go home and read what he said because I saw 2 articles in my feed that said that Vladimir Putin is seeking revenge against Ukraine. And I'm thinking, wow, did he say something that sounds like it's revenge, or did he say something that sounds like tit for tat, a proportionate response to, in his eyes, like self-defense? Or is it really, I'm going to go kill Ukrainians because of an unjust reason? Or did I just read 2 articles with headlines of political propaganda? I don't know, because I don't know the facts. I'm excited tonight to go home and read what was said so I can determine if the media is lying to me or if this guy is a psychopath wanting revenge in an unjust conflict. I'm excited to find the answer out.
And I think being able to see balls and strikes, even if, there's been 5 strikes in a row, being able to say, okay, there might have been 5 strikes in a row, that one was a ball, though. I think that's how you can be led astray, is if you believe something unconventionally, if you believe that one side, especially in like a war, for an example, if you believe that everything that, Israel says is true, or everything that they say is false, everything that Hamas says is true, everything that Hamas says is false, you can, unbeknownst to yourself, be drawn into supporting atrocities.
Well, confirmation bias is a powerful drug because we love it when our beliefs are ratified. It feels good. It tickles our dopamine receptors.
And it does not when our beliefs are challenged. When
that's very
it hurts.
It's very uncomfortable. We don't. I think another problem with our civilization is people don't run towards physical, emotional, and psychological discomfort. That's why you see so many athletes that become very just men in their age once they realize that they're chasing a pleasure and whatnot as a youngster was misguided. You see a lot of combat athletes, a lot of collision sport athletes, people that lift weights very hard. I mean, they punish themselves. Like athletes punish themselves. Like in rugby, you punish yourself while you're trying to punish someone else. In MMA and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and wrestling that you do, you punish yourself trying to punish someone else. But there are people out there, put your theory of mind on that. There's people out there that don't chase physical discomfort, that they just eat and sit still and avoid causing themselves personal harm.
I'll quote something that I saw Nick Saban say in person at game day when he came to Eugene, which is he says that he always tells his players and he always tells everybody, it's going to be painful regardless. You can either suffer the pain of discipline or you can suffer the pain of disappointment when what you want doesn't work out because you weren't disciplined.
Okay, I hear that. Now let me scroll. So that's the other problem, is that we run away from psychological pain and emotional discomfort. So when you're challenged with something, you run away from disbelieving something that you know to be true, because it would be uncomfortable if you were wrong. It would be paradigm shifting. It would be identity shattering. And there's other people that run at that stuff, and they just want to know, am I right? Am I wrong? Ooh, let me challenge that, right? And then eventually, in your wisdom, in your years, you realize, okay, now I know that these ideas are the most likely to be true, and I have faith in this system, and I'm going to now comfortably filter things out, because if it doesn't fit this paradigm, it must not be true, right? I can't square a circle. Babies shouldn't be killed.
Yeah.
Human life is sacred. Justice for all. Those things. That should be a paradigm. But there are people that don't think that way.
And you can know for sure immediately if somebody's saying, yes, that killing of babies was totally justified. You can know pretty much immediately that there's something wrong there and that they're not correct about that. You can know, you can recognize an evil ideology if they break something that's such an easy cardinal rule.
Well, the ends justify the means, and if people believe that a greater harm is being avoided by this minor suffering of these innocent strangers that I don't know today, they have made a value decision based upon a cost-benefit analysis. Now, are they asking themselves, is that good? What's the purpose of that? Well, if their purpose is animated by my tribe wins, my side wins, I personally win, if that's their purpose in life is getting the win for my people instead of getting the win for the ones that deserve it, that deserve justice, that's the problem in people's decision matrices, is they don't have that virtuous overlay because they were never taught it. And I think it's too much to ask most people when you're getting hit with stimulation and information that somehow people are always going to stumble around and find sort of the truths of existence about cardinal virtues, about how we should treat each other, about how we should exemplify love in our lives, because they didn't see it to begin with. So it's unfair. But it's our job as lawyers, if those people are on the jury and we're stuck with them, we have to know how to communicate with them. So we have to have theories of mind that can show them the error in their thinking that at least allow them not to stand up against a group of people that are saying that the other side is right.
The fact that we get to do that, I think there's something to be said for the fact that the American justice system allows both sides to be heard. And so if you do have a competent advocate, you have a chance to convince an otherwise unfriendly juror that you're right. Even if a juror is biased in one direction or another, as you're saying, with a good advocate on the other side, you can potentially open the juror's mind and convince them to make a decision that they otherwise wouldn't have made. And I think that's one of the things that is beautiful about our system. What's not beautiful is that in practice this doesn't get to happen, but in theory at least, with good counsel, you can overcome biases against your client and win because you told the best story, because you spoke the truth.
And that's what we're called to do every day in our lives, is find out and seek the truth and speak it every chance we get.
I mean, I think of some of the just gargantuan hills that have been climbed. It's shocking to us because certain things seem so obvious. Obviously, historical injustices, segregation or slavery or genocide, as we talked about earlier. To us, it seems so obvious, but the only reason it seems so obvious to us, the only reason that society has moved in the correct direction there is because people were willing to chip away at the very incorrect consensus that these things were okay. People were willing to speak truth to that and fight and fight and fight over years and years until they could finally make their case.
And there was people that were willing to die for that truth.
There were people who were willing to die for that.
And it seemed to increase in frequency a little over 2,000 years ago. I wonder if there was an event or a person that may have led the way that we have inherited, and as a justice system that is based in sort of that truth of existence that everybody deserves an equal chance of prevailing based upon the best advocacy and you pray that the best advocates are on both sides. So if one person is wrong, they don't win because they have a better lawyer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. It was real interesting. We'll have to pick this up another time.
Absolutely.
I want to hear a little more in the future about how practice in law has been different than what you expected and what you've learned. Because you've actually, I've seen you grow and I've seen you learn a lot in the time I've known you, and I'm excited to keep watching you develop. And clients love you, and I want to see you keep doing good and changing people's lives accordingly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate not only to have this job, but also to learn and grow. So,
well, you're welcome. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you another opportunity for a rematch.
No. Can you turn off the cameras?
We got to record it.
I know one trick for arm wrestling, and Mike knows it and does it better than me. Also, I'm sore from yesterday, MMA.
Okay, fair. I didn't do.
I'm just getting excuses at this point. All right, which hands?
Grab your left.
Okay. You know what they say about... Never mind.
All right, you gonna be referee this? All right, set, go.
Oh.
Do right hand?
Sure. Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Why would your right hand have more trouble than your left, Mike?
That's a story for another day.
I need to remember to breathe.
I don't know how long I should do this.
Or you have to tap. It's almost 8. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
I think we should stop. Good job.
Thank you.